Hello, and welcome to the Three Peak Master Leadership Experience. My name is Mino Vlahos, and I am joined by Dr. Mazen Harab. Along with our partner Chrisana Locke, we are the co-founders of Three Peak Coaching and Solutions, where master leaders build healthy systems. Our company provides coaching and workshops to executive leaders and leadership and well-being workshops to employees. Today's topic is all about the psychology of sales. And so we're going to be talking about some of the ways that we go about doing sales within our own company, 3P Coaching and Solutions, but really talking about the kind of inner world of sales, what happens within the human, and how to be successful in sales in an authentic way. So just up front, I'm going to say what today is not. It's not about sales tactics. It's not about the kind of operations of sales. We're not going to tell you how to do sales. We're going to paint a journey of how to go from potentially not doing sales or being against sales or rejecting sales to what it might look like, a possibility that can open up when sales feels like it is authentic and in integrity. And so that's going to be portrayed through our own personal journey because Mazen and I were not natural sales leaders. We weren't trained to be sales leaders. And yet, because of our company, we found ourselves one day doing sales and learning how to do it. And in our typical fashion, instead of going and reading 1,000 books or going to a workshop or a class, we love to do the experiment ourselves. We love to try many things, to fail many times, and to learn why something works and how to do it a bit differently than what's been talked about in the media. And so that journey took us here to today, where we not only successfully do sales in a way that feels authentic and has integrity for us, but we also now support and train other people in how to do the same process for their people. Again, this is not about the technical aspects of sales or the tactical aspects of sales. But if you want to start somewhere and you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to figure out a different way to do this, then this is the episode for you. And so to begin, I'll just talk about my personal relationship with sales before starting 3P Coaching and Solutions. And Mazen, I'd love to hear where you are at before this whole journey. But for me, I'll be honest, I really hated sales. I thought it was really icky, like it was this like dirty thing that people imposed on you, and I never wanted to do sales. And even though I had sold work before, when I was back working at a corporate consulting company, I did it in a way that was like very passive, and I almost stumbled upon certain opportunities, and I was like, okay. But going into Three Peak, that was really my attitude, was like, sales sucks. Sales is evil, if I'm going to just paint it that way. And then I've had this big journey, this big transformation since we started our startup. And now, if you talk to me, I might even tell you that sales is the most noble thing a human can endeavor. So there's just like this huge change that I've undergone. And I'm happy to paint that picture across this podcast episode. But let me ask you, my friend, when we started, or let's go even before Three Peak, what was your perceptions, attitudes, feelings about sales?
Honestly, it just was purely conditioned. I was super conditioned to that word. Uh, I'm gonna go extreme. For me, it's like sales. It's evil in a sense, or like sales that mean I need to convince people to buy things they don't want. I came with super conditioned. I have lots of belief systems. Yeah. So in a very negative aspect of it, that's how before really jumping into it. So that's the hard time to jump into it. That's
And so give me just a little now pulse on where you're at now. Where's your, what do you believe sales is now? Like you said, it was evil, and now what is it to you
I,
now?
I had to go through my inner journey. For me, going into sales was my best and personal development at this time in my life. Apparently, in my life, I was not focusing on business. I was focusing on my services, so on my like science, academia, research, healing work, consultancy, but not in a business perspective. In a sense, people used to come to me for my expertise, so it was easy to give a service. So I didn't have to sell it so much. I have to just to be good in my service, and that's enough brought people. But when we went the journey of full entrepreneurship, yeah, that brought me where I am right now. Through when I went through my personal development of it, I could see myself, all the limiting beliefs. And it brought me to now where I'm like, oh my goodness, I had so much judgment. I had so many misunderstandings. uh, wow, like allowed me to grow as a human being. To go through that, I wouldn't miss it in my life. Actually, this it was my personal growth was to go through my own conditioning with that title and with that department, with that function.
And so, one of the kind of mind experiments that I use sometimes, thought experiments, is I always take things back to my ancestors. I think about my grandparents who were villagers in Greece. And for instance, my grandfather, when times were tough, he picked and sold lemons. So he was a salesman and he sold lemons. And then most of his actual career was being a blacksmith. I think about my other grandfather who was an electrician, or my grandmother who they came from a village that's renowned for melons, selling melons. And I think to myself, is selling a lemon a bad thing? Is it evil? Is selling a tomato an evil thing? And for me, I'm like, no, I don't. How could I ever say that? Because I want to eat food. I need to eat food. It's good quality food. It comes from the island that I'm from. So, what's inherently bad about selling lemons and melons and tomatoes? People need doors and they need windows and they need fences. So, what is bad about selling metalwork, blacksmith work? But somewhere there's a disconnect in our modern world where what we're doing, we consider that bad. And what I consider what they're doing is good. And so, Mazen, I'm trying to understand a little bit. What's the difference? You said I'm selling something that, people don't want or trying to trick them. That's the perception, the conditioning we have. So maybe tell me, like, if I think about the grandparents with the melons and the tomatoes and the lemons, awesome. Like I feel no judgment towards them. And yet when I see sales today, there's this judgment of, yeah, it's evil. So what's the difference?
Again, evil is a strong word, but I will explain why I said that specific word. It brings me to the times of my own research because I literally do research on neuroscience, behavior neuroscience, and literally uh, memory learning through connection, through association. So it has to do with ads and everything. So I'll go back a little bit in time, where go back 100 years backwards, before and a little bit before the industrial revolution. We were trying the best to sell things, but was trade things we really, really needed, right? And even you go way back, it was all trading. So when you say about your grandparents, yeah, everybody need a lemon. So you don't need skills. You don't need that much skills. You really need to believe in what you're selling, and you need to have a demand for it, right? So it really met. So it was easier. So, but when we start to produce so many different products, that is not anymore necessary. It's just a luxury, right? More from sweetened stuff to beverage. Like people can live with squeezing a lemon, putting some sugar and water, and then drinking it. But then then other brands came and want to convince you, no, don't do it yourself. We have a better way. And so we had to go, and a lot in the 50s, 60s, the Western world had to go more into understanding the mind and then how to trick it so people associate things to in order to buy things, right? So it's interesting. So it was not in an evil way. They were not evil people. They had a product and they really want to sell it so in order to have a normal livelihood and live good with it. So the game was still the same. The only difference that happens is, and this is the interesting part, when I was doing neuroscience research, like when I was deeply in, like 15 years ago, the I realized that during the 60s, 1960s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, the private companies knew more about the brain than scientists. I was like, but one moment. And then later on, I understood the tricks. They understood how to make association so that the brain go and then do a memory, associate two things together and feels, really need that. So in a way, is always the private. First of all, most the army that's the most technological. Then the private, the second. Then third comes the rest of the population and the science in it. So in a way, I was really working on addiction and feeding behavior. All right. So really, I need to say why I said that word, but I don't believe in that word, just more the understanding. And I realized most of it, like the crisis we had or we're having, it was more of obesity crisis, more like all the sugary, fat, sugar stuff that has been sold to kids. So very, since we're very kids, we know where to put advertisement, right? When there's cartoons, when the times. So there's lots of manipulation. But again, I'm using manipulation without judging. I'm saying there were a bunch of people saying how to sell this product. Ah, cool. Kids love those things. We associated this. You put a cartoon, you put something nice. So they knew more about the brain. And in that sense, I was loaded with my own research, with my own understanding. And where I missed my grandparents and your grandparents' understanding of it was just a normal trade. I tell you what I need, you give me what I need. So this is where sales was, I considerably healthy, and this is where it moved to unhealthy, or now use better those words, balance and then imbalance. But what remained in me was the thing that was more imbalanced or unhealthy. And this is where my judgment came from. And even I generalized, and that was my mistake to generalize it.
I'm going to give an example. I try not to pick on my parents too much in the podcast, but sorry guys, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. We went to Istanbul last year, and we went to the bazaar. Right, there's the big marketplace, and as we were walking around and looking and shopping, there was somewhere they were selling the Turkish delight, the lokum. And as Greeks, we also have lukum, so we love it. It's something that's very like, and they had like, we have like one flavor in Greece, right? But in Istanbul and in Turkey, they have like 100 flavors, like the most magnificent lukum I've seen in my life, like with Nutella and almonds and different fruits and like mind blowing stuff. And like, so we wanted to buy lukum, right? So we already had a desire, and there was a lot of vendors, there were a lot of guys there that were selling lukum. So supply and demand was there. And I remember we went into a shop and the prices were all written, right? They were written in lira. And so he told us the price per kilo and then said, pick out a box and then tell me what you want. He also said, very nice tea. So tell me what tea you want. And at every moment, he would give us a sample. We would taste it. Then we would tell him how much we wanted. He would weigh it. He said, yes. And we said, yes. And then he put it in the box. What other flavor do you want? Okay, we'll do a sample. Yes. On and on and on. And we filled the box. And at the end, he told us the price. He added it up. He told us the price. And my parents, they were shocked. Like, it was very expensive. And they went into this like shock. And so they did pay for it. We bought it. We took the lukum. And then for the rest of the day, they were basically saying, like, we got taken advantage of. The salesperson took advantage of us. And I couldn't understand why they thought that, because if you just did the math alongside the guy, like, his math added up. Like, everything was transparent. The prices were labeled. We went one by one. Like, if you just added it up in your head, you would get to the same result we got to. There was no cheating. And we sampled every one and it was delicious. And we said, yes, 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 yes. And yet there was still this feeling at the end of like, this guy took advantage of us. And I've been thinking about that in sales a lot. And so one of the mindset shifts I had in terms of the conditioning I had is that I look at sales as a process of education. It is educating someone about about the product or service they're purchasing. And there's something about getting like a fair value. To me, one of the reasons we kind of freak out if a salesperson is talking about us is because they know the price that they want to sell it at, but we don't know the price that we value it at. And so we don't have our own inner direction on what we think the thing is worth. And so then we feel like the other person is pushing and pulling us towards the price that he or she thinks the product is worth. And it's in that gap that I think that people feel the manipulation. But this is where I say the consumer or the buyer has an obligation to go educate themselves and to figure out what they think what they're buying is worth, instead of just being like, I don't know, so I'm going to rely on this one guy to basically dictate the price. So if my parents really thought it was unfair, my invitation to them would have been they should have walked to the other vendors and compared prices to see what is the price of Lukum. Is this guy being honest, or is he pulling one over on us? Because his prices are transparent, but we're just assuming that, okay, his prices are the right prices. But beyond that, I don't know what else the guy could have done to educate us, because we sampled each one and it was delicious. And we went home and we did enjoy it. We shared it with friends and family. So that's one of the things, is like, sales is an education process. So with our company, I really am very respectful and honestly even happy when people say, I want to go check other companies, because I say, great, go educate yourself. Go figure out what is out there. Don't take my word for it. Or when other bigger companies, they want to do marketing to talk about what is leadership. I think that's amazing because I can't educate everyone on the planet about what is leadership. I don't have the scale that, a company of a million does because my company is a startup. So for me, it's not a competition. I think it's an education process. Mazen, what would you say to someone that kind of went through a sales process and feels like manipulated? Like, what do you feel is potentially going on the buyer seller relationship there?
It really has to do with to know yourself, right? Like it's a big word, but even I would say it. Even I wanted to say it about our journey of sales. The journey of sales and all my conditioning, it was to know myself. And the moment I knew myself, I understood that was not true, and I was not seeing reality as it is. When it comes to the buyer, cost, like the buyer, the seller buyer relationship, we are prone to follow our instinct that is connected to our conditioning. So, in a way, and an understanding is if it's something, we go with reaction without feeling what is needed. So, if we have someone charismatic, hey, with a nice voice, charismatic, and then really makes us feel good about it, and then we really enjoying the social engagement of it, because people, one of the most instinct that we have is to engage socially with other beings. So in a way, there will be all those basic psychological instinct, which is the motivational drive, is in sales. One of the main instinct is hunger and thirst. The other one is fear, but we keep it for, no, we can bring it here. I won't say we keep it for the political realm and the propaganda, but I will keep it here because also it's played. The third one is to be seen, you know, understood, right? And then the salesperson understand us. When you mix all of that, right? So, and then you're like, I will be playing on your senses, on your like, this is an amazing opportunity, and I will tell you how amazing it is. Then you'll be like, oh my God, So the instinct of I will get, hunger and thirst is like, it's the reward, right? I will get, I will get something out of it. And then if the sales feels like, you're not convinced yet, then he will use the instinct of fear. Again, people are not aware as they're using they don't know the whole psychology of the body, like they're not scientists necessarily. And I feel they're not convinced, and they might use if you don't get it now, tomorrow it's just an offer for you. Tomorrow it will be double the price. And you see in marketing and everything, you have like, buy it today. Every time I go to a website, buy it today. Today for you it's 10 euros. Tomorrow it's 100. And I'm like, it's funny. I only entered today, and I'm like, I'm sure if I enter the next 2-3 days, it's still there. And then you have the time clicking. I have 12 minutes to buy it. See, so it's really hitting our reptilian brain. So reptilian brain is the first part of the brain that really evolved before having the limbic, which is all the emotions are, and then neocortex, so the upper part. And it really has to do with our instincts. So when we come as kids, the first thing we start to do instincts. We go on those things like reward, like searching for food and water, and then it rewards us so we know we're good, and then avoiding pain, right? And then so the fear is very important. We are, we belong to the animal kingdom. We are animal beings. We are humans, but also we're animal beings. So that means we have the whole structure of that. So if we don't know ourselves, if we don't know our reactions, if we go, but I've been manipulated. I'm like, but didn't you notice that you've been manipulated the last 2-3 years to buy things? Check around your home. And here I ask an experiment for everyone listening. Please check around your home. How many of the things you have, you're really still enjoying, and it's something that you really need? And how much of it you just felt you wanted and you bought it because your neighbor did it, because that phone somebody tell you it's amazing, and then but now sitting you don't feel like, why did I buy that? So again, the difference is, what do I need and what do I want? See, I'm making a differentiation. I need is like, it's really necessary for me because it really will help my life. I want is just from the brain desire. What do I want? To feel satisfied and fulfilled. I will buy more clothes to feel good. I'll buy more clothes. So I'm fulfilling another need, in my wantings. I hope that answers a little bit. Yeah.
I'm going to bring in what our third partner, Kursana, says many times, which is we cannot not influence each other. So humans, because we are relational animals or social animals, we influence each other. And I would argue that any form of influence is a form of sales. It is, I am existing and my existence affects you. And sometimes if I direct my energy or direct the focus or direct the desire, then I'm in a sales process. So we try to sell things to each other all the time. Hey, you're with friends. I want to go to a restaurant. You're selling the idea of the restaurant, you know? Like, oh, I want to buy this thing. Of course, that's more tangible sales. But I want to go to work and I want to convince the group that we should go do something. Like, there's at school we want to do an education and tell certain stories, certain facts, and pick. We're all selling each other ideas, products, services, everything we're doing constantly is sales. And one of the books that I'll refer to later, which is a wonderful book on the psychology of sales, is called To Sell is to Be Human, because it's something we do with each other every single moment that we're with one another. But if we know ourselves, as Mazan's mentioning, so I know my emotions, I know how to process them, I know how to not instinctively react on them, no one can manipulate us. But I see even like, I don't know why I'm going in this direction, but I see like a lot of young men that are really hateful, resentful, angry towards women because women, just by being themselves or even putting the sex appeal out there, and the men can't contain themselves, they cannot process their emotions, and so they're, oh, I got to go follow this thing, I have to, oh, I am powerless to this woman, and then I hate her for it because she's manipulating me. And I'm like, dude, if you can just learn how to be with yourself and be with your emotions and to process and to move your energy, then no woman can force you to do anything on this planet, and vice versa. I'm sure there's some vice versa, maybe kind of reciprocation. But I'm a man, so I don't
Yeah,
know
for sure, it
exactly what
exists.
women
No worries.
experience. But yeah,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, it exists vice versa to a certain degree, but it expressed differently. It expressed differently.
So we're all again buying and selling different things, and we're all wanting and desiring, and it's the root of it is, can I be above my impulse and not beholden to it? Like I have this instinct, but can I observe it rather than I need to just act on it? And if you observe it, then there's nothing anyone can do to you to hook you.
I love where you went actually because you gave me the last motivational drive, the last instinct, but I forgot to mention it. But it is one of the most successful one that happened in advertisement and in the business world, which is sex, right? Sex sells. We always hear it, sex sells. And in the past, like hopefully now less and less, you see like those girls, like very, like half naked young girls on cars and things. And again, what we are hitting, again, I said it before, it's the primitive reptilian brain. Again, it's really to reproduce, so then it's sex. To feed, then it's joy, reward. So everything has to do with reward. And then to avoid pain and to, and then fear, right? So you mix those three. It's not like I'm giving the mix of those three. It's already known. You mix those three. That's it. You're able to hook people more and more. And this has been known since the 50s, 60s very well and has been used. And this is what we're talking about, the wanting, right? It's not just the need, it's just the wanting, which is the desire. And when you said like example of genders, oh, I can. So it's really not only just go above it because we have to respect our instinct, and it's really how to go through it. Yes, there is an instinct. Is it in need now? Because there's no, just more of emotion, energy. I'm like, can we process it? Can we understand that something is happening, and then so can we regulate ourselves and understand that just that's a desire. I want it. I want it. I want it, and then going and going processing. So yeah, I'm just confirming what we're saying. Know yourself and then go through it, and then one can be never manipulated in that sense, in the negative sense. And please, I really want to share, like, the word manipulation is not a wrong manipulation. This word manipulation has been hijacked. Manipulation, I think, also, from Greek, mani is the, or Latin, like, to really, is the hand, is how to. So a kid, when it comes to the word, start manipulating the world around them, right? So manipulation is right, just more how to go. So it's not a negative word. We put it so negative because we used it to gain advantage, when people probably were not consented. But that's it. So that's only one part of it. Yeah.
I'll add one last thing on the relating dynamics, then we're gonna move to more like business sales. But again, in that relating dynamic, there's like I'm gonna again use the young male as the example, just because I can relate to it. But you have a woman who's either just existing or whatever, even showing interest, right? So then the man, the young man, he's has this intense desire, and then he wants something, but in that wanting, he actually loses sight of the actual human in front of him, and that this woman is someone to relate with and to have a kind of amazing opportunity to build a relationship and a rapport, and meet each other's desires. Instead of them, it turns into then I take, because this is something I want. This person doesn't want me to have it. So it turns into this really interesting, weird game. So if we can just learn to how to, again, process some of this and learn how to healthily relate, then none of this becomes so charged and this kind of intense battle that we see. And I'll then paint that into sales. It's the same concept of a seller has something that they want to offer to the world. The buyer might want it or not want it. And so we go into the other human's an object, and we want to buy and sell from each other. And we want to be, it's beyond transactional. It's almost like a dehumanizing thing where the seller is not a human and the buyer is not a human. We're just something to be taken
Mm-hmm.
advantage of. And this is where we have a kind of create a different framework for what we consider sales. And so, Mazen, you came up with a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
formula. There was three things, right? That if we kind of fall in love with, that sales moves from this dehumanizing taking to something that becomes much more in authenticity, much more in
Mm-hmm.
integrity. So, can you share with us a little bit of what that is and how you came to realize this discovery?
Thank you. My realization came when I was having resistance. I was resisting it, and then okay, I don't understand. So I'm going there, and then how to tell them about this product, and then I understood how I was in the wrong, and not that the world was in the wrong. I was in the wrong because I have responsibilities. If you spend your life or your energy building something, right? So if you're building something that somehow you believe in it, if somehow you believe in it, you create a rapport with it. That means actually you're loving your product. Otherwise, it's very difficult to enjoy what you're doing. Again, there are other people who are not enjoying what they're doing and they don't love the product, so that doesn't apply to them. Probably they should start enjoying certain product. So here I'm talking in an example where you're already enjoying the product you created, and it is your life work. You really so you create a product, so you love the product by relating to it and enjoying it. And then the second one is you love yourself, because if you do not love yourself, that means you feel yourself unworthy. This will also break this equation, because that self-doubt, and you feel yourself small. So you if you see yourself small, yet you love the product, you don't know how to pass it on. Who am I? You start questioning yourself. Then you love yourself, you love the product, and then you have to love the people who you're buying to. Again, love in a sense of out of respect. I really feel the product would be in service for them. That I mean the word of love here, loving the people through that service. If you believe what you're giving the people is not in service of them, that also equation doesn't work. So again, for the ones who are selling product that they don't enjoy, and then giving people service that they don't think it's that's needed for people, and if they had like feel of unworthiness, and then actually this doesn't work. They'll have to use different conditioning techniques, as we said, which is really using a little bit of cunning, a little bit understanding the instant of joy, pleasure, desire, fear, say, charm. Like one would really need use a lot to create a desire in the other, so the other start buying it. But in a more healthy way is that's the equation: loving the product, loving the self, loving the people who I'm serving. So in a way, I'm obliged, I have a responsibility to that creation, to bring it out. Then I'm like, so sales is one of the most natural and healthy thing in the chain of creativity. As an artist, as a business person, as anything, like I see a demand, I try to find a solution for it. I enjoy my creativity. Oh my God, I'm filling that demand. I enjoy myself while doing it. I'm responsible now to move it. If I get blocked, Actually, I am in the wrong and not the world.
And so we're going to take each one of these one by one because I think these are very important pillars. And I'm going to start with the first one, which is loving the product. And we'll spend the least time on this because this isn't about product building or building a service this episode. You can check out some of our other podcasts about startups, which I think we get into stuff like this. When it comes to loving the product, this is where I think first the salesperson, or in a lot of professional services, like doctors, lawyers, consultants, they become the salespeople. So it's not just, a salesperson that you hire off the street. A lot of times these experts need to then, at a certain level in their career, need to go sell the work themselves. So a lot of professional services, like I came from management consulting, you have to end up doing sales anyways. A lot of jobs, the more senior you get, you end up doing sales anyways. Like again, I'm going to use example of my mother. She's a food scientist, so she works with food, but at some point she had to go do sales because at some point you become so senior that it's not about creating the products. It's you have to go sell the product to someone. My dad's in academia. He has to go get grant money and funding. So he has to sell his ideas. Or he goes to industry and like corporations and says, I have a cool innovation. Would you like to try it? So he has to do sales. So in every corner, in every place, I don't know where you can hide. At some point, you need to go share your ideas, products, or services with someone else. To love your product, you need to understand the product. You need to understand it inside and out. And I think you need to understand what other people are doing. Because if you can't benchmark or compare, and not out of judgment, but comparison gives you information. It's what we do naturally as humans. Is like an apple and an orange. I'm comparing them. That's not a bad thing to compare. It's if I start to judge the comparison or say one's like, one person's better than the other and the other one's inferior. That's where I think comparison and starts to then create other issues. But just go out there and figure out in your industry what is possible. So I'll give a personal example. At the company I used to work at, they did leadership coaching. And I'll be honest, I didn't believe in the product. I didn't really believe in the service. And I didn't understand it at that time. And one of the reasons was because I was working with these really cool people in Europe that were doing really transformational work. And I kept saying, well, I see what I'm doing today and I see the potential of what they're doing. I can't make sense of like, this isn't good enough. So for me, the solution was I started a company with these two people called 3P Coaching and Solutions, where I went and found how to believe in the product. But if you can't start a startup, then figure out where you enjoy the service, the product itself. And if maybe the company you're at doesn't do it that well, go apply and get a job at the company that does do it well, right? So that you can find the place where you really believe. Or if you're stuck, you say, I'm stuck, then find a freaking way to improve the product or service at your own company. Then find a way to innovate. So at any given moment, I would say there's some responsibility to be in alignment, to be in integrity. Again, I don't judge people who say I'm going to go to somewhere I don't believe in because I just need to feed my family. Okay, that's fine. But then you're not going to be doing what we're talking about, which is a more authentic sales process. Then you're going to use some of the tactics that Mazen was referring to earlier. So that's my 2 cents on kind of loving the service, loving the product. Okay, now we shift to loving the self, which is a topic that I have struggled with a lot in my life. And I've had lots of self doubt, self confidence issues, always not thinking I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome. So before I give kind of my experiential way of kind of moving through that and getting over that, I'd like to ask Mazen, what would you share with someone like an earlier version of me that might come to you and just say, Mazen, I don't love myself.
The first question I would ask, how are you able to sell? So honestly, the first thing what I would do is ask you, and you tell me, no, I'm selling very well. Then if you don't love yourself and you're selling very well, then I'll ask about the integrity. So then I'll be curious. I'll be asking you, so what are you using as techniques? Yeah, I studied this, I studied that. So are you using your charm? Are you tricking people? Do you believe that, do you care about giving the service to people? So that's the thing. In order, if you're succeeding and you don't love yourself, that means you're doing something. That's and yeah. So this is the first thing that comes to mind. Um, But when you don't love yourself and you're selling thing, you'll always feel inferior. You always feel like I'm an imposter. You start to be pretending. You'll be smiling without. So it's not you. If you already don't love yourself, and in that it will separate you even further from who you are, because your job dictate and your livelihood, so to eat, is to sell, but you really don't love yourself, then you go there, you're going to be pretending. So by and by, with time, you will go further and further away of who you are. Or you use that opportunity that in your sales and then bring awareness, and you're like, go through that what comes, and then the sales itself become the school for personal development. While you're anyhow doing your sales, see how you can improve on your relationship to yourself, your relationship to the product, your relationship to the people. And then probably you start, yeah, I don't believe in that, or believe this, and how much you can bring awareness and start changing things. So again, the things where we are, the jobs where we are, it's not that, oh, I have to change my life. No, while you are in those jobs, while you're in the sales position, how to bring awareness, because that position will help me understand my belief system. It will help me understand my limiting beliefs, help me understand how I'm stuck in my life. And instead of like, I will leave my life and start something else, you know what happens? You will let the job of sales, you will let go of it. But when you go somewhere else and then enjoy a holiday or enjoy another job, what will remain with you is that you're not loving yourself. So you're back to the same issue. So here I say, more work through it and not getting rid of it. Don't separate from it necessarily.
I'll share then a bit of my own journey in this. I don't know how to even talk about this because it's taken so many years where I finally do feel a bit solid in myself and really not questioning or doubting myself. But there's been a lot of steps on that journey. The first of which was really getting into my body. So it's the most critical step for me was to understand that I'm not just a head, I'm not just a mind that's floating above nothing, but there's all this physicality to what I'm feeling. And that the more I'm in my body, the more I'm not overthinking, and then I'm not self doubting myself. So even now, when I do sales, the more I can feel the physicality of my body, I don't overthink. And so even those self doubting thoughts don't come up for me. So a lot of the tools that I did with Chrisana and Mazen when I was doing personal development with work with them intensely supported me to do that, from Osho active meditations to breath work to sound healings, meditation. Like they have so many incredible techniques, bioenergetics that really supported me to form a relationship with my body and to understand what I'm feeling and processing that emotion. There was a lot of stuck fear that I had that I needed to reveal to myself and the world and to process. So going through the layers of fear and conditioning that I had within me, there was a bit of understanding this whole equation of an imposter syndrome. And I made a post a few months ago where I was like, there's a formula to this. And I don't even remember the formula. I have to look it up. But basically what I realized is that if I am creating expectations of myself that are above either what I've experienced in life or the expertise I've accrued, that I'm always setting myself up for failure because I'm demanding more of myself than I'm capable of. So I need to be very honest with myself around like what have I experienced in my life and what am I good at and what am I able to share with the world, and not going beyond that. I don't go an inch beyond that. Of course, I push myself to learn beyond that and experience more. So each day that bar goes up, 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 up. But I can't tell you what it's like to be a billionaire because I've never been a billionaire. I can't tell you what it's like to be 80 years old and what that feels like in the body because I've never been 80 years old. So I'm not going to try to do that. I'm going to tell you what it's like to live a life that either I've lived, what I've learned along the way, or what I've studied and experienced from a more expertise level. Uh, and then again, the more that I kind of really just teased out, like what is this assumption or this belief system about why I'm inferior? Like really tackling that and really getting to the roots of like my own perceived inferiority. And for me, what like again and again supports me is to see myself in the constellation of life, which is that all humans are part of this fabric called universe, and we're all one and the same. There is no better or worse, greater or less than. We just have different roles, and different people can occupy that role. It doesn't make them better than the other. Like if you go up to the president of the United States, if you go up to a prime minister of Germany, they're still a person. with the same things that me and you have. We're no different. We just occupy different roles in society. The billionaire and the poor person are no different. They just occupy different roles. I mean, I'll go even beyond that. We're not different than the tree or the dog or the cat or the star or the planet or the moon. Like, we're all one thing. We've just created these distinctions in our mind because it helps us categorize the world. That's how our brain operates. So that's been some of the process of evolution. But many times when I'm working with people who are in professional services, consultants, lawyers, doctors, they have a lot of self doubt, a lot of inferiority complex. When it comes to not being able to sell, it's usually this is the pillar that they're missing. And yeah, sometimes because I just like to shortcut and provoke people, I ask people if they're struggling and they come to me for advice, like, why don't you love yourself? And of course, it hits them like really strong because sometimes I'm just shortcutting to the chase, cutting to the chase. But that's why one of the reasons I think very well-meaning but very heady people struggle with sales is truly they might believe in the product, they might believe in serving others, but they don't believe in themselves.
It's really a big insight, I'm gonna just, my scientific on the. I like to dissect words. If you were struggling in this podcast, understanding the word loving yourself, I'm gonna use the word. Am I able to accept myself? Right. The word is, and am I able to accept myself as I am with my flaws? So that's what we mean by loving the self. That's one. Second is we need to know that most human on this planet, that's our personal development. When we kid and then we evolve, this is what we grow through, is how to accept ourselves. So I understand that most people, we don't have the self-acceptance, which is a self-compassion to ourselves. So what does that mean? If when we do a mistake, we start really judging and feeling guilty about it, and this is where we let go of the inner self-love. This is love, right? So to understand what is loving yourself is to understand our reaction when we do a mistake, supposedly a mistake, and how we self-talk. This is where the scientific understanding, what is how not to love yourself. I really judge myself. I really hate myself for what I did. And that we let go. Okay. So that's the first understanding. Second, I'm going to give a word, a sentence of hope, because here you mentioned like either loving yourself or it's not possible. Knowing that loving the self is a journey for life. So here I'm going to add it. Okay, you can bring awareness to it, but there's a way where you can be fulfilled in your job without reaching a full self-compassion and self-loving, accepting who you are, how you are. Like that's, which is when we are deeply, I'm talking here, deeply convinced about the product, the service, and deeply convinced that service will really aid and help others and it's beneficial. Regardless the amount of doubt I have, that power of conviction within us can make us go through walls. Funnily enough, we know it very much with fanatic, with religion, with politics. See, and this is where it then something, because something is charged in us. So not everyone has to see, okay, like it's not, if I don't love myself, then it's not possible to do the job. No, but at least you have to be fully convinced about the benefit for society for this product. Then that's amazing. And then you can evolve in accepting yourself for how you are. Because, if back then, if you really, really believed so much in the benefit of that product, and then you see that really humanity needs it and they're ready to receive it, it will spark a fire within you. You will have your self-doubt, but it will give you at least a buffer for you to have a little bit motivation to go to work. But for some reason, probably you didn't believe as much, you didn't see as much the benefit. Then what happened is the self-doubt was way stronger, the voice of the self. So it's a question, is what is stronger, the voice of our self-doubt, or the voice of the I'm so convinced about the service and it's really benefiting everyone. So it's this dilemma within us.
Yeah, I'll share an example where all three pillars for me were absent, where it was I felt like I was living in hell. But one of the first jobs I had, I was working on Wall Street, and I was working with wealth managers who would manage wealthy people's money. So people who are worth like millions or billions of dollars. And so they would convince these people that, like, you don't know how to handle your money, give it to us, we'll invest it, you'll get a return from the stock market, your money will grow. But when I actually got in there, what I realized what they were doing is they were gambling with the money. So they would, yeah, put a bunch of money in these very expensive funds where they would basically get a kickback percentage. So they would take a percentage kickback, and they'd take percentages off the top for being a manager. Then they put some in a fund where they would literally just gamble. Like I'd watch it every day, where it was like playing the lottery every day. And then, they'd use tricks. So they'd say, okay, like it was an older woman I remember came in and they were like, well, what's your favorite company? And she'd be like, oh, like Apple or Nike. And it's like, okay, so we're going to get you some stocks in Apple and Nike because you're so smart and you're such a good investor. And so it was a time where I really had no self love or acceptance for myself. I hated myself. I saw what they were doing, and I didn't believe that we were in service of the person at all. Like it was really just like, let's take their money and let's get rich while we keep them like kind of deluded that things are going okay. And my job was to make cold calls and to convince people to give us their money. And it was absolutely excruciating. Like I every day was just like had to force myself, and my mental health was really poor because across all of these three, I didn't believe in myself, in the product or service, and I didn't believe that we were helping anyone. Now, by contrast, like it's the opposite, where now I'm like, hey, like I'm a human with my strengths and flaws, but I'm no better or worse than anyone else. Like I believe I'm good at what I do. I'm one of the best at certain aspects of what I do. What we do with Three Peak is transformational, and I believe we do really support people. And I have evidence and proof that I've seen from supporting people. So now it's like lined up. So now when I go to do a cold email, I'm like, I'm actually adding value to this person. I'm helping them solve a problem they might not even know they have, or helping solve a problem that they do have and don't understand how to solve. So it's a very different relationship that I have now than when I first started my career. And so we started talking about like loving the product, right, and service. We talked about loving the self. Now we're going to talk about the third pillar, which is being in service of other, like loving the other. And the way I'll kind of bridge into this conversation is there are quite a few salespeople, and actually have been called into clients. They come in, the salespeople, and the account already exists, and they get a commission for just sitting on the account and not really doing anything. They don't reach out to people. There's no motivation. They don't really care that much about the people that they're servicing. So there's something missing about they're not, and so they're actually not that good at sales, right? So a new sales leader comes in and is like, the sales team is not operating, it's not performing. And my diagnosis is they actually don't really care about the end user. They don't care about being in service to others. So Mazen, can you tell me a little bit about that phenomenon where it's like if that pillar is missing, where you're not really in service to the
Mhm.
other?
I wrote it down before because I really wanted to show it as a triangle. So I drew in front of me, on top of the pyramid there is the self-doubt, unworthiness. This can be in both either convinced or not convinced, but this is, that's crucial. But there's one way to get out of the self-doubt and unworthiness of your sales if you're convinced. There's two way of conviction. Here there's no morality, we're just describing them. I don't feel, I have lots of self-doubt, I feel unworthy, but I'm in sales. There's two ways to be convinced. One is service to others. What does that mean? I'm so convinced about this product, and then I'm so convinced it's in service of others, that regardless my self-doubt and unworthiness, I will go out and actually portray it and give it. See, even it gives that power. So, and the other one is the opposite of it. It's not good or bad here, just the opposite of it, because everything in duality and polarity has to have its complete opposite. Is I'm not convinced at all about the product, right? And you have lots of people, yet those people are amazing salespeople. They have self-doubt and unworthiness, yet not convinced at all. You're like, how it's even possible? They have a conviction again. So the power here is conviction, right? So we explained self-doubt and unworthiness, what makes it difficult. But the moment the antidote is conviction. One conviction is about our product, it's amazing and benefit everyone, service to others. The other one, the conviction, is this will help me get my next paycheck. This will help me feed my family. This will help me pay my credits. This, so the conviction is serving to self. Because when service self conviction means just I don't absolutely care about the product, but actually I have to survive. So those are the two forms of conviction. It's not good or bad. I repeat it again. You can use whatever you want. We're just portraying what is. But in the next form of conviction, it's just really, it's for me to feed my family. It's for me to get the best car. It's for me to get my 10 millions. The purpose of it is to gather wealth, money, and then to use any possible tricks and techniques to sell it. So actually, it has nothing to do with the product. And so this is, I really need to explain it clearly. To conviction, it's for you to decide which one. First of all, where in your circumstances, where in your life you ended up. Either you ended up in you this or in that. There's not a third one. Either this or that. And then you decide if that fulfills your desire, that fulfills you, then you're okay. If you start to feel doesn't fulfill you, then you need to go whatever feel fulfills you. But again, it's coming to knowing yourself. Just you need to know what's your conviction, what you're doing, and then later on, if you're struggling in sales and you get like it's getting difficult, I'm not able to get good sales leads and everything, then you can question, what was my first conviction? Yeah, my first conviction is to serve myself. I don't care about the product, it's to get money. And then, or the opposite, my conviction is really the other people. And then here's the question: when you feel stuck, so then when you feel really being stuck, is then we go back to what we spoke about: self-doubt and unworthiness. So probably the conviction is not enough anymore for you. And then you know what happened when you're not convinced about the product, and actually yes, it's for me, but I'm not able to sell it. Then your self-doubt and unworthiness will come to the surface. The moment the self-doubt and unworthiness comes to the surface, you start to struggle, because your main conviction and motivator is you're waking up to what you're doing, and it's reduced.
What about this phenomenon? And again, I'm thinking of people I know in professional services, lawyers, doctors, consultants, that they are in that kind of camp of service to others, but then when they do get near someone, they basically they're not able to really understand the full scope of what that person needs, and so they can't really be in service of the other because there's something blocking. There's like, do you get what I'm saying? Like they don't really detect how to be in service of this person truly.
Actually, I'm gonna go back to really explain a little bit service to others. The best way to be service to others, it's not to be a professional. Once you understand how non-professional can be service to others and how it's benefiting you because you're not separate, then it starts to happen. The best way to be service to others, and then as a feedback further to yourself because of that, is to be able to listen. The people you mentioned or those professionals, are we able to listen? It's not because I'm so overeducated that I know what the people need. And this is where it comes into sales. Are we capable of listening? This is the superpower of sales. If that superpower is missed, it doesn't matter. You're the best in your expertise. Someone, he's the best therapist, he's the best lawyer. Wonderful. People come to him. But if he doesn't have that superpower of really listening and understanding what they need, he won't be successful. She won't be successful. So the superpowers we're talking about here are very simple, yet they dictate our life, yet we don't notice they're there. And that's the thing. It's I want to speak, but I don't want to listen. You come to me, I'm a doctor, I want to tell you. And I'm like, but one moment. You tell me one thing, I remember the book, what I learned, I tell you what's the problem you have. I'm like, that's the first superpower. If this is missed, the rest is missed.
And so I'm thinking about like I had someone I used to mentor come to me and say they're a leadership coach and say, I'm really bad at this sales thing, but my company is forcing me to start doing sales. I don't know where to begin, but I know I'm really bad at it. And so I started asking some questions. I was like, okay, can you take something that you do and give it away for free? Like, do you believe that if you gave it away for free, that it would add value to someone else? And he said, yeah, I think if I gave this like framework I made for free, people would find it valuable. I said, okay, so you believe in the product and the service. Okay, that's good. And then we went through, I was like, what about the other person? Like, do you listen to them? Do you figure out what they need? or are you just talking over them because you're nervous and you want to know what they think about you? And no, I am listening. Like, I'm a good
Mm.
coach. Like, I listen to them. And I said, okay, so then what's left in the triangle is, what do you feel about yourself? And then it started to come out, well, I'm afraid to get rejected. I'm afraid that I'm going to break the relationship. I'm afraid that this, I'm afraid that. So there was really all about the self, right? Which I really empathize with. And it's something that the beauty is, you can work on these things. Like, there's personal development, as Mazen mentioned, is the beautiful journey of our lifetime. Why do you feel like, Mazen, some people, and I have this too, so I'm not exempt, but there's this feeling of like, if I am selling to someone, I'm going to harm my relationship. I'm going to break something in this relationship. Like, what is that knot, that Gordian knot all about?
I really love this question because it's really present a lot. I see it a lot, a lot in our company, a lot in ourselves, a lot. It is relational. It is conditioning of a collective. It is. I want to feel it start with your parents and your upbringing. It is the conditional way how we gave and asked. We live in a more conditional society. We learn very early on, some with love, with acceptance within our family, within our parents, conditional. So your father would tell you, if you do this, I will love you. If you do this, I will give you that. So it's always this conditional. So you would never get the love or what you want without giving something back. Again, I went to the deep root of some of the issues. And then it helped, and then everything becomes conditional. So it changes our relating to others. Then you want to contact a friend, then this what you suffered from comes from your own subconscious. I need to ask that person something. I don't know how, because everything about asking support is conditional. It's never unconditional. So there is the fear they want to be accepted, and because you suffered from it. But the truth of the matter is, when we live in a society when love is given unconditionally, when acceptance is given unconditionally, when love is not being trade off, and then when we call friend, I generally tell him, "Hey man, I need assistance." It's not like, "Oh, what should I give you back?" Can I receive support? That's the first question. Do I allow myself to receive support of help? Probably I ask really all the listeners. One of the biggest issue, we cannot accept support. We cannot, we're too proud to ask for help or too afraid to ask for help. Both of them is the root of it. Also, it's rejection from the outside or rejection ourselves. I'm too proud. So there's a mix of subconscious thing of since our upbringing really comes together.
What I'll add to this is that when we start to look at relationships, all relationships to some extent are a give and
Mhm.
take, and the healthiest relationships exist in reciprocity. What sales and networking I think have started to reveal to me is the actual bank accounts, if I put it that way, that we've created with in co-created with friends I have or family that I have, where some of those laws of reciprocity mutually were not respected. And we created a operating environment where one person was giving more than the other, and that became the basis of a friendship. And that was never looked at, that was never respected. And then the moment that like I tend to be someone who gives a lot, I believe, to friends. That's one of the belief systems I had, at least. I've now come to see something different. But I give, right? And then when I want something back, no one answers my text. And that like devastated me, because I was like, wow, what the fuck? Like, I've spent my whole life giving. Why won't they answer a text when I need something? And what we started to look at is, I created an operating rhythm where I chose to create a dynamic where we could only cohabitate this relationship in this dynamic. And the moment I tried to rewrite the rules, the relationship itself didn't want to form into something new. And so I've started to really learn and respect that, actually, from the get go, all relationships need to be a give and take. And it's not even, I'm talking about like money or favors. I'm talking about even just like love, giving acts of service, giving physical touch, giving affirmation. Like, everything exists in a balance. And so if you set something up from the beginning that's imbalanced, then when you try to shift it, like, yes, it's going to resist that shift. And then that gets even more, I think, pronounced when it starts to become more like favors, or make a sale, or make a connection, or a referral. It kind of reveals the game you've chosen to set up with your people already. Whereas if you're already in a balance, then I think these things tend to go much better. But yeah, as Mazen said, like, it's also about asking for help, for support, and being open and honest about that. And so that's actually, again, one of the beauties of the game is sales for me revealed how I was imbalancing my own relationships, and allowed me to understand that reciprocity is not bad. So I don't know where that conditioned belief came from, but reciprocity is the balance of human relationships.
Thank you. It's what came up with your explanation, very accurate explanation, is we have forgotten the golden rule of a humanity. It's time to remember it and reclaim it. The golden rule is we thrive together. We believed so much in the illusion of we're separate. We're separate from our body. We're separate from our planet. We're separate from each other. Then we started to think that whatever I do doesn't affect the other. Whatever I pollute doesn't affect Earth. And then we forgot that if you pollute Earth, Earth will have a rebalance itself, and then it comes in form of climate change or climate disasters or whatnot. So we really deeply, inside of us, believed in the illusion of separation over millennia. And then within our family, as a kid, again, I gave this example multiple times. You come to the world, you're connecting to everyone you wanna, and then your parents tell you, no, 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 we don't know him. Don't say hi. You're like, you see the kids at the beginning, first years, they say hi to everyone with this tremendous amount of love. They don't see separation. Why would not say hi to this person? This person is nice. I feel his energy. And that's the idea. And then we learn that actually this is the other family, and then we're not connected. When humans, indigenous people, were living in tribes, were still few living in tribes, they don't come to this world, imagine it, and they say, oh, in one tribe, this is one. No, it belongs to the tribe. They know that they belong to the tribe belongs to this mountain belongs to this planet. So they live in respect of themselves, the tribe, the mountain, and then the planet. So this chain has been forgotten. And actually, it's really an act of remembering. And you're going to say, oh, but I'm like, the simple motivation why we would need to remember, because it gives us motivation. Because if we start to let go of the illusion of separation, understand that every act we do, it's really affecting the fabric of the systems around us, we start to be responsible. And if we know, if we are so interconnected, we start thriving together. So all the struggles everyone's struggling within their job, within their system, within their governments, within their countries, within the planet, its root of it is the illusion of separation. Its solution of it is to thrive together. And then, but how would I do it? I'm like, understand that we need each other and to start to reciprocate. If Earth is giving you, you have to reciprocate back. If your body is giving you, to have to reciprocate back. So it starts with simple act. To be good in sales is to understand also the fabric, how to reciprocate with your body. If your body keep you in health all the time, why you're abusing it? And then later on asking, why am I sick? I'm like, how you're abusing it with substances, whatever. There's so many ways to abuse, with self-talk, with outer substances. You're abusing the planet, or you're abusing something. And understanding reciprocity, understanding that we really need to we're part of the system. And then sales, it's not something outside of it. Sales is to keep the balance. If I create something that's beneficial, I go there and then share it. And then if I have a question and the request to ask a friend, why would I go afraid? I'm going afraid only if I feel myself as a trickster. Only if I feel now I'm tricking, I'm extrapolating something out of my friend. That's the reason we're afraid. But are you? And that's the question. Are you really extrapolating something out of a friend? That's one. Two, the other thing, you come to your friend while you already lived, you gave so much and you have resentment. Oh, they still believe that nobody gives me as much as I give. So when you go to your friend, you're expecting your friend to give you everything because you gave them a lot. So both are in belief system. Oh, I feel and then it really applies, and then the friend doesn't give you exactly what you want, so you're full of expectation, and you start to be you start to have resentment against this person.
And that's exactly what I did. So I'll tell you when I mentioned earlier. So I had this concept in my head that like I'm an amazing friend. I'm such a good friend because when I'm with you, I open my heart fully. You open your heart fully with me. We go as deep as the universe. I will host you. I will take care of you. I will buy your food. I will buy your coffee. Like, that's my kind of Greek conditioning of like, I'm going to make sure that everything's taken care of to the best possible extent. And what I realized, so then I had all these expectations when I finally was like, hey, I reached out to these people and I've invested whatever 30 years in being the best friend they could have. Why don't they respond to me when I need something? And one of the realizations I had is that different people value different forms of friendship. So some people, they really value going deep. Some people, they value connecting with people often. And one of the things I wasn't doing is I wasn't connecting with people often. So I'm the kind of friend where we see each other once every 4 years. Before those hours we're together, it is magic. But then I don't talk to you for 4 years, 5 years. So we can drop into being best friends for that moment in time. And I realized there's some people that might think I don't care about them because I don't talk to them for 5 years. And it clicked for me. I'm like, actually, from that perspective, I'm a really bad
Mhm.
friend because in what is meaningful to them, which is often connection, knowing what's going on in their life, staying in their life, knowing more of the day to day, they don't necessarily want to go that deep or it's not that important to them, then actually I'm a terrible friend. And I started to see myself more honestly. Or for some friends, their language is to like, let's help improve each other or do something together. Like there's all kinds of different forms of give and take. And so for anyone listening, this is my painful lesson is if you do have that resentment, if you do have that expectation, and it's easy to go blame the other, and it's easy to say they're egotistical and they're selfish and they're bastards, like take the pause. It took me like almost a year to sort through this. It was a lot of disappointment, a lot of grieving, ultimately to realize that I'm the problem. I'm the one who's not in contact with my friends. I'm not doing it often enough. So I've switched. Now I'm making an effort to really reach out to people a little bit more frequently and to actually be in their fucking life, in their day to day, to understand what they're going through day to day and not just show up once like Santa Claus and be like, I'm going to open the magic bag and give you all the gifts of the universe for an hour and then disappear for a year. I've realized it's a different form of friendship. And so, yeah, ask yourself a little bit is like, am I actually giving in the right ways? It's not about giving enough, it's about giving in the right ways for the friendship to give back to you.
I will tie it here, right? So here I will really take it exactly from that thread you left me. Am I giving the right way? But that's where it comes unconditionality instead of conditionality. It's not because I'm giving in the right way, I would need accept anything in return. See, that's conditionality. Friendship is loving ourselves, loving the friend, loving in a way it's unconditional, to step out from that conditionality of love. So here, what I want to bring, I will add a point where, yes, I completely agree with you. And there's something more. The something more that remains is we are by nature, by conditioning, sorry, by conditioning, we are self absorbed. We are so self absorbed in our reality. We believe that our perception, which is years of conditioning, is what reality is. So, first, we don't see reality as it is. That's first. And then, second, because we are self absorbed. So, how to get out of that? You go ask a friend, and then they give you something back or not. You should not be affected because any moment you're affected that you live in that conditionality, you're really self-absorbed, and you really don't see reality as it is, and you're only perceiving through your own past. You're going to say, okay, what am I speaking about? The understanding of we need to start to do the task, bringing awareness to what? What are you talking about, man? Bringing awareness that the person we're speaking with, we have no idea where they are within themselves. And instead of having expectation or thinking, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that, are we able to take their perspective? Are we able to ask them their perspective? So here we're coming back to the main superpower. Are we able to listen? And this is what I learned. My brothers, my friends, nobody, you say, it's not like everybody wish me this all the success there is. And if I start to judge them, they didn't help me or they didn't give me back. They're giving me love, acceptance. They're giving me all of that unconditionally. They cannot save me. You know why? Because they don't know how. Because they have their own things. So, and this is when I start to change, see reality as it is. Oh my goodness, it's not about me. It's not that they don't want to help. They're super busy. They're super worried. I come on top, tell them, oh, I really need support. I really need someone. That brings them way more stress. They get really worried about me. And actually, most of the people get handicapped, get crippled by it. So if we start to be less self-absorbed and see reality as it is, and understand that what we see is not reality as it is, it's only reality through our conditioning, through our perception. When we start to see the perspective seen by the other, by asking the other, we start more and more get to see reality as it is. That means we're less and less disappointed. We start to understand. We're like, oh my God, all my family, nobody helped. But when you start to ask them, you understand why. It's not because they don't want to help. It's just they didn't know how, and they get stressed and they get worried. So what we believe it is around us, it's not what's really around us.
And we're starting with we're talking about like family and friends because it's the most intense relationships in terms of the emotions they evoke. But as we move to the outer rings of acquaintances and then strangers, they all the way we relate with people is kind of the same, but it gets easier in a way because the expectations we have, the conditioning we have, the emotional bonding we have becomes less and less and less. And so if you can master it with this close ring of individuals, family and friends, and you can send a text without expectations, without an outcome orientation, my God, when you do it with a stranger, you'll have zero expectations and zero emotional hooks into what's going to come back to you. So one of the things that people struggle with a lot with sales is I'm afraid of being rejected, which to me is kind of, I had that at some point too. It's not, again, I'm not different. I've learned even to let go of my family and friends giving me what I want in the exact way I want it if I don't ask in the right way. So I've let go of, and even if I do ask in the exact right way, they still might not answer me or support me. And that's okay too. I've really learned to kind of not take it personally. So now when a stranger comes to me, I'm like, why would I expect a stranger to do me something when even the friends and family, I don't expect it of them? Rejection to me is like, it's all about expectations. I'm wanting, and this person needs to. And I've started to, like, again, I keep bringing up the dating thing. It's the same concept of like, I need this from this woman, so I'm going to get it from her. And it's like, you don't know if you're a good fit. You just want something. You just desire something. You want it. You have this mental fantasy in your head. But have you met this individual? Have you talked to them? Do you bond? Do you relate? How many dates do you go on where you have, okay, they're pretty, but you talk to them and you're like, I don't feel it. Like there's no chemistry. There's just no vibing. Like there's something about it. It's not a good fit for me. So I move on so that I don't take that personally. Like something's just, they're not good fits for us in this moment in time. And maybe 10 years from now, you meet that same person. It is a good fit. But in this moment in time, when you stepped into the river, it wasn't a good fit. And it's the same thing with sales. So you reach out to someone and maybe it's not a good fit for them, right? Maybe it's, again, it could be like they don't have the money, they don't have the time, they don't believe in the product. It could be like they don't have there's all these things that it's just not a fit. And then you reach out 6 months later and they're like, oh my God, thank you so much for reaching out. And we had that same thing with a former client of ours where we did all the work, we completed it, we put the bow on it, we finished, they thanked us, we thanked them. A year later, they reach out and they're like, we're in total crisis, we need you. So, like, it's all about timing and it's all about fit. So, if it's not a good fit, I'm not going to take it personally. So, letting go of this thing of like, they're doing it to me, or it's a feedback loop, right? Rejection's a feedback loop that I use to beat myself up. My product sucks, I suck because they didn't respond to me, or it's a no. And I'm like, again, it's the self-absorbed thing I think you mentioned,
Mhm.
Mazen, right? It's like maybe they just legitimately are fine in this moment in time, or maybe you're not the right vendor for them, and that's okay. You're not the right business for them, you're not the right product for them. It's to detach from the neediness. I kind of put it, that we need to make a outcome
Yes.
happen. I also would say that like no for me has become the biggest gift because I'm even better with this now, but for me the no response was more painful than just saying no. If you just tell me no, then I can go about my day. I stop, worrying about it. I stop organizing it. I stop reaching out. It's a very clear, okay, I'll talk to you in a year and see if a situation has changed. The ambiguity of it's just open, like someone's very interested, oh I really want to do that, and then you email them and email them and email them, and it's like, but they told me they were so interested. That to me took me a longer time to process, but it made me very grateful for the no's. It made me very grateful for people that were going to close the loop with me. And so that's when I say like learn to love the no. It's not like I become numb to the no. It's like genuinely I'm so grateful this person took the time to communicate with clarity that like, yeah, actually it's not for me. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling me. And now we close it.
One of the most important rule in sales, and this is where we're the most conditioned, is, and I really ask the few of you who are listening, really to bring awareness that this is when it happened to you and if it's happening to you. When we go to sales, we're trying to have a commission, we're trying to sell something. So, by the nature of how we are conditioned to things, we start the selling process. All what we are trying to do is to take. Makes sense? You're selling, so you want to take. Every salesperson want to take because if they take more, they have a better commission by selling. But something has been forgotten. This profession or this position or this role has to do with giving. Only take. No, it's not even take. The first, you are here to do, you're a salesperson because you give, you provide. What do you want? I give you. The moment you're given, then you will receive. So the word take disappears and gets out of the window. So it's not about taking, how much and how fast can I take? It's how much and how fast can I show the people what I do and what we have, and how much and fast can I offer them that service? How much can I give them that service? And then just by just normal reciprocity of it, you will receive. You will definitely receive. So first of all, am I ready to receive? If yes, I'm ready to receive. I'm like, good. Then are you ready to assist? Are you ready to show and give? Then that's good. It's very difficult to fail in business if you have those balance. But if you're there only to take, and you have a lot who took, look at the economical crisis in 2008 and many others. This is the root of it. Again, it's the same human principle. People took way too much and they forgot the golden rule of selling. Selling was about I give you something you need and I receive money or I receive something. All economic crisis, the root of it is the amount of take was bigger than the amount that had been given. See, even in system brings imbalances like to that much. And if we're gonna hit another economical crisis, instead of questioning the banks, questioning this, questioning that, let us question ourselves. How much we took instead how much we gave and received money. I'm not saying to cancel money. Money is needed, but money need to be received and not taken. As simple as that.
Yes, absolutely. And the way I return to, I look at sales and the way I do sales, I'll decode it now. I'll give the code, the formula is I really feel it is a process of educating the other person about a topic they do not know. And so when I come to consult someone, and the first meeting I have with them, I am not only fully listening, but I'm fully feeling. I'm sensing. So I open up almost this field of sensing where I'm really just tuned in, and I really just ask questions to create a map of what this person and this organization is going through and experiencing. And so I let them just run and talk and talk and talk. And they cover all these different things. And I start to understand, okay, this individual has these things going on with them. This team that they operate within, this organization they operate within, this is what's happening with it right now. This is where they would like to go. This is where they've been in the past. I create this whole kind of like visual map that I feel out. And then I help to basically clarify to them what I'm seeing. And so I say, this is what I'm observing based on what you just told me in the last even 30 minutes. And they'll talk for 25, 27 minutes. In the last moment, I'll say, so what I'm seeing is point A, point B, point C. So these are the main points of like what you're experiencing, the good and the bad, and how it affects where you want to go. Is that accurate? And they say, wow, yes, I've never heard someone like put it that accurately of like what's happening with me right now. Actually, and some people say, because you've told me what is actually happening, you gave me the diagnosis, I now know how to solve it on my own. So I don't need you. Thank you. Goodbye. And I say, when I first started, sales, I got resentful because I was like, oh, what the fuck? But now I'm like, actually, I'm glad I told them how to solve their problem. They're self-sufficient. They know how to do it themselves. That's incredible. So it's not a fit. They don't need me to go implement. All they needed was a 30-minute chat to clarify what they're experiencing. So I really am grateful. I wish them well. And then I send them on their way. And then I follow up in 6 months, a year to see if they did it well or not. But some people, it's all they need is the map. Then most people I interact with, they say, thank you for this map. I actually don't know how to, now that it's so clear what the problem is, I don't know how to solve this myself. I don't have the tools, the resources, expertise. I say, wonderful, we can support you because I know for a fact we have a lot of things that we can offer you, and we've done it with other people. And I know that if you're on board and you give us 100%, that we will make this happen for you because I believe it. I've seen it. I've done it. And I want you to succeed. And that's it. That's sales. And they say, cool, let's try. And let's just work out that the money works out mutually. And that's it. I'm not trying to take the most money from them possible. We worked with giant corporations, and we also work with like nonprofits and startups, especially with nonprofits and startups. If they're like, listen, I don't have a budget, I say, great, I'm not here to get rich off you. And it's true. So I'm like, what can you genuinely give in exchange for this money? And if they say like, I can only give this, and I'm like, okay, usually we charge 2 or 3 times that. Like, if we want to do the project, let's do it. But what would really also support is, can you also introduce us to someone else as part of the exchange? Like, there's ways to make it work where I'm still giving and they're giving, and it still feels like it's reciprocal. So that's how I kind of really view sales. Is it's the education process. I want them to walk away knowing, what does a leadership development company do? What is their problem? And how can we support? And if they want to go check what other companies can do too, amazing. It's an education process. And then at the end, there's a mutual exchange. There's nothing I not only used to, like I said, I started my journey with, I felt it was evil. And now I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I helped solve their problem. I actually did it for free because I gave them free consulting for 30 minutes to an hour. If I send a cold email, the way I do cold email is I look up the company, I research the company, I research the dynamics, I look on Glassdoor for reviews. Like, I look at what's happening. And if there's something I see that's like off, I email them and say, hey, I noticed something is off. And like, this is how I would solve it. So that cold email is an education process for them because the CEO is busy. Maybe he doesn't know, and she doesn't know, that there is a problem in the company and the employees are burnt out. So I'm doing them a favor by spending my time analyzing their company and giving them a solution. I feel this very genuinely. And so for me, there's no issue of authenticity and integrity. I have come to realize sales is one of my missions on this planet because it's me really supporting other people. And if I didn't do that, I don't know what I would be doing, honestly. I would probably be self absorbed and trying to figure out something about myself and selfish because, like, at some point I worked through everything with myself, more or less, the big blocks. And I came to this moment in my own therapeutic healing journey where I was like, all right, I'm done with me. I'm tired of me. What's next? And what's next was the other. And that's I think, one of the steps that I playfully suggest for some people who are in the more spiritual healing therapeutic community is like, if it's always just about you and your shit and your, it's like, man, at some point, like, your life is so self-absorbed. Like, at some point, let's move beyond that. Like, what about the other? And so we're gonna, I'll do a little summary, and then I'm gonna bring it to our final kind of thoughts. So today we really talked about some of the underpinnings, the psychology of sales, ranging from a lot of conditioning that many of us have, that sales is an evil thing, all the way to sales actually is truly can be in service of one's own self-development, and also in service of other people, and also in service of the planet. To sell is to be human. We're always influencing each other, and we're always in relationship with each other. So all we're talking about here is the process of reciprocity, of how we give and take between ourselves, our own self and our body, with each other as humans, and even as the planet. And we're just trying to find a way where these things come into balance. And that to us is authentic sales that's full of integrity, is exchanging with that balance principle in mind. When we look at that, what we've realized is that if we love ourselves, accept ourselves, love the product, and love the other, there's this natural flow of creative energy where we want to be working on things and serving the other. That actually it is one of our higher callings to be in support of each other and the planet. And that comes through sales, it comes through influencing. So whether you're going out to get a grant for more research money, whether you're telling a patient about a new medical procedure, whether you're at work selling an actual like product or service for a corporation, everything we're doing, right? Whether you're going for dinner and you want to say, I want to go to this restaurant and I want the group to go in this direction. If you're a leader and you want people to follow a vision, everything is sales. Everything is a give and take. Everything is moving in a direction. So everything in a way is sales. And so that's my recap of where we've been today. So with that, Mazen, any final thoughts from you?
When we start categorizing things with good, bad, evil, not evil, we're really separating. And then at the beginning of our lives, it really helps us understand things. But we later start to understand nothing is by nature fully evil and nothing by nature fully amazing. Everything is based on how we see reality and how we are, not how things are. So, in a sense of when it comes to the business world, academic world, humanitarian world, healing world, spiritual world, we still in a stage where each those worlds criticize each other and see the evil in the other, and that's not good enough, so I do this. I do believe and I know by fact to be living healthy and holistically on this planet, to be the best stewards and stewardess hosted by this planet, is for us to start working together beyond separation, beyond categorization of evil and harm, and then good and I'm better, before beyond superiority and inferiority. Because in everything we're seeking, the person in front of us also seeking something similar in that sense, to all live really in a more peaceful way. So sales, marketing, it's time to bring consciousness to it. It's time to bring really, are we really serving our neighbor? Are we serving ourselves? Are we serving this planet? And then the more we're going holistically, the more all of those things, it'll be a very, very, very enjoyable ride. So the world is better with business. The world is better with healing and spirituality. The world is better with academia. And it's really start to join forces so we can thrive together.
So to conclude, I leave with two parts. The first is, as I've kind of mentioned, different moments, that sales is an education process. And one of my biggest learnings is that people speak different languages and they have different needs. So if I'm truly in service of the other, I will find out what they really need to feel served. Some people, they want to just connect, human to human, heart to heart. And that's really beautiful. Some people, they want to know that you're working with other people, that you're part of a network, that you're doing something that others have experienced. And that's beautiful. And I can share that. Some people want to know why your thing works. And that's also beautiful. So let us figure out in which way people would like to be educated. So it's not just I force my education upon you. It is listening and understanding what the other really needs to hear the message. And then to me, as Mazen mentioned, like that's not manipulation. That's me just better serving the other. I'm not going to go to someone that speaks French and try to speak German. Like I want to speak their language. So that's one. It's just when it comes to education, I just wanted to clarify that because I've talked about educating the other. So I'm not going to force information upon the other. It's about listening and allowing myself to give what really would support them to know more, whether it's for me and my company or a different company if they so need a service. The second thing is I started the podcast by saying I went from thinking sales was something evil to almost one of the most noble things that I've ever done in my life. And I say that because when I look at what Mazen shared about accepting the self, loving the product, and servicing the other, my greatest transformation, some of my greatest healing has been by attending to those three things. Starting Three Peak is one of the greatest things I've done in my life. I did it because I believed in the service that we give to other people. When I learned how to really tackle my own self-doubt and love myself and accept myself, it only happened because I was doing sales. And I had to keep confronting my own limiting beliefs and perceived smallness in this world. And finally, when it comes to servicing others, we all exist in a system, a human system. We all must contribute to the tribe. We contribute to different extents because we each have different capacities and capabilities. But to be in the tribe, you must contribute. That is part of the reciprocity. And so we each have a role on this planet. It is for us to figure out what our role is and to then contribute to society, to contribute to each other and to the planet. So work is very noble. Contribution is very noble. Service is noble. To be able to do those things, I must sell. And selling itself then becomes noble because it is the act of me contributing and playing my role in this human system, this beautiful, beautiful planet with 8 billion people on it. And so sales, yes, it can be something where if we don't bring awareness, it can bring up all those past conditionings, but it's also a journey and a path to something very beautiful. And so with that, we'll end this episode, and thank you for listening.